So one of the things that has started to pop up quite a bit here in Minnesota are these sculpture parks. And the one I'm at today has actually been around for a long time, Franconia Sculpture Garden. And one of the challenges when you come to a place like this is how do you get photos that aren't just snapshots of what the sculptures are? And what we'll do today is we'll just kind of go around to a couple of my favorites here and just kind of figure out from there what exactly it is that we want to try to capture. And as we do that, we'll look at different angles. We don't have very good skies today, as you could probably tell from looking in the background. But we'll just try to make the best of what we have. I think a lot of it's going to come down to doing some things with wide angle lenses and just kind of seeing what we can sort of pull out from there. Now here's a sculpture that it's really hard to see in the daytime. If you look up towards the top, you can kind of make it out. But this would be a fantastic candidate to do some light painting with. And as we go around it, we can see from different directions, more of it starts to just sort of reveal itself, especially against the sky. So while it would be something that would make a good light painting subject, it also would be something that would be kind of fun to sort of explore and photograph. So I started out by getting really low and 24 millimeters, just using the sky as the background. And this one kind of reminded me a little bit of a roller coaster, some of those that you see that have that loop in them. And then I thought, well, let's try a few other angles. And there's another one, maybe not as successful as the previous one, but also had kind of that roller coaster kind of effect to it. My next thought was to try to just make this thing look really larger than life. And so getting really close to the ground and pointing up. I thought this did a great job of just making this sculpture look just massive. But then I started to notice that there were some shapes and things. So this reminded me of a heart. And I thought that was kind of interesting to capture that. But then just moving around just a little bit, then I also had, and maybe this is because I do like to photograph wildlife, this one seemed to look a little bit like a heron to me. And I really did kind of like the way this looked. I darkened down the trees in the background just to remove any distraction from them. So it almost looks like this is just coming out of the trees. So it shows a lot of what you can do. Let's go and look at a few other sculptures that are here in the park. Most gardens have a signature or centerpiece sculpture, and you saw this in the opening of this video. One of the things that I wanted to do was to figure out how I can capture this without having distractions in the background. And that is kind of an issue, especially with this one, since when you start to look around, no matter which direction you point in, there are other sculptures. And that's because this is right towards the center. It's very large. And so you end up having to go and bring in a lot of background. And sure, you could clean some of the stuff up in Photoshop if you wanted, but I would prefer not to do that if I don't have to. So I thought with this first one, maybe going from a landscape orientation to more of a portrait. Certainly the sculpture is less crowded in the scene doing this, but I still have some things in the background because of their color and that are drawing the eye away, although I do really like the sky in this one, and with the way that opening in the clouds kind of works with the two upreached arms. So my next thought was to go around to the other side and see what that looked like. But that really didn't work for me for a number of reasons. One, the sculpture isn't as good looking in terms of, it seems like there's some patchwork done on it that's more visible from this side, and there still is a lot of things in the background down low that are kind of distracting. So my next thought was, let's get right up underneath it. And I do kind of like this. It looks like maybe some kind of prehistoric pincher from some giant crab or something like that, or maybe some ancient pliers. And I thought that was kind of interesting. Of course, you do lose the fact, or the context, I should say, that this is actually a sculpture. So I thought about laying down on the ground and just shooting straight up. And I really like how this kind of looms over me and reaches towards the cloud. So I did like this one. But I got to thinking maybe what I want to do is show this in relation to some of the other sculptures. And so not have this in the foreground necessarily, but to actually move it into the background. So I went back to the sculpture we saw earlier and got down low and shot this. And I actually had two sculptures that came in, which did add a little bit of a step to it. But I thought maybe if I get closer to the sculpture of the mannequins, and I'll admit I don't quite get this one, but the mannequins with the athletic footwear, and have that be the foreground and have the sculpture in the background. That was kind of interesting, but I thought maybe I needed to get a little bit closer and just try to have them a little bit more of a connection. So I like this, but now really that sculpture, we're kind of losing something here if the main intent is to really kind of feature that. So I found a different sculpture that has some holes cut into it. And for this one, I had to get down really low, which was kind of nice because it eliminated all of the background distractions. It brought in some of that really nice sky. And could I have cropped this maybe a little bit differently? Maybe go to an 8x10 or maybe a 1x1 crop? Possibly. But I did like the way this kind of looked. I did think about removing that little piece of the sculpture that was kind of coming into the left-hand side of that circle. But in the end, I thought I liked that little bit of an imperfection. So I decided to keep that in, but that would be a pretty easy thing to. So sticking with this sculpture, as we start looking around it, there's a lot of things that start to show up, a lot of interesting details. And I think really with this one, the details are a little bit more interesting. And one of the first things I noticed when I look above one of the circles that I shot through is there's this one piece that looks a little bit like a fish. And I'm guessing that was probably pretty intentional on the part of the person that designed the sculpture. And as I move around, I can see there's a lot of textures. There's also some interesting colors. And I think really for this sculpture, really looking at the individual details will make for a much more interesting set of photos. So here is the fish, and at least I like to think of it as a fish. And I just really like how it's set apart from the background. The light's hitting it a little bit different, so it's a little bit brighter. The rust is coming a little bit more. And then as I go in closer, I can find things, some other details like this lichen that's growing on top of the rust. So I thought that made kind of an interesting shot as well. But one of the things that I noticed was really the colors, and the colors really pop on this thing. It looked like it was maybe all blue at one time. It's since been painted this reddish orange color. Looking for things like these two bolts in this cut. Almost looks a little bit like a mouth. Almost kind of reminds me of a turtle's head. And then here's another face that I seem to have found in here as well. This is still kind of the original blue. So just a lot of fun little detail shots that I can get from the sculpture. I spent a couple of hours just wandering around, taking photos of some of the other sculptures. There were 3 that I thought were kind of interesting. So here is a quick slideshow of what I captured from those 3. As always, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please leave those down in the comments. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a like. Also, if you want to know about more, go ahead and hit that subscribe. Thanks. Bye.